so much for coming.
Of
Thank
course.
you.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. So, what's your
Yes.
name? Where are you from?
I'm Mari. I'm from Atlanta. I was born in New York, but then I grew up here for the most part. I kind of go back and forth every now and again. And I'm a spiritual healer. Yeah. I'm learning how to spiritually heal people.
I love
Yes.
that. I love
hmm
that. So, one of the first and famous questions is what plunged you into your healing journey?
Actually a relationship.
Okay.
Hate to be one of those, but a relationship. But it wasn't even like it was so weird because it wasn't even like they were doing anything inherently bad. You know, when people talk about all the toxic stuff that they go through in
Yeah.
relationships, it
Yeah.
wasn't like that, at least not from the perspective like outside looking in or like from
Yeah.
me experiencing it. It was just those little things that used to like make me feel some type of way.
Yeah.
Um and so it was a couple of years ago. I was having a lot of like issues with like my house and stuff. So I wasn't like in stable living. So I had a
Mhm.
lot going on. But during that time my partner was very like I don't know, he wouldn't like call me, text me, nothing. And every time I'd call
Yeah.
him, it would be like voicemail, it would be like ding. And I'm like, dang, what's going on?
Mm.
And I had noticed when I noticed it now, like I said, I was very unstable. So I was like, damn, I just need somebody to be there for me. So I
Yeah.
was like, well, if you're not gonna text me, I wonder if I don't text you, call you, none of that, will you talk to me? We
Mhm.
didn't talk for 6 months. And you're supposed to be my partner. Now I'm poly, but you're my main partner. You're supposed to be
Yeah.
like, we supposed to be, and you don't talk to me for 6 months.
Okay.
And mind you, I'm talking like calls. Like he would text me, like, "Oh, you got money? Like, oh, I need some food. Like, oh, can you give me like, da 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 da, right?"
Mm.
But if
Yeah.
it was like, or or can you stay on the phone with me or something? But when I needed him, or when I needed to talk to him, or I just wanted to be in his presence, because I had a lot going on. Like, I really just need you to be around. He'd be
Yeah.
like, he just wouldn't answer, and I'd be like, "Dang, that's crazy." So that's what started it. That's what started it. hmm
Okay. So, did you have a conversation with him? Did you just say, you know what, fuck this, I'm out, I know my worth? Like, what
Um.
was it that changed in
Oh.
you?
Okay. So during that time, I was feeling a lot of like, damn, I need to go outside. Like my spirit was calling me, like I need to go outside more. I need to like
Mhm.
connect with nature. I need to. But then I'm trying to hold on to these relationships that I have, but
Yeah.
they're stressing me out a lot.
Hmm.
And so I initially made the decision, and we didn't talk. And when I mean we didn't really talk outside of those few little, we didn't talk at all. And so I was just like, okay, cool. And so I spent a lot of time by myself for real, like just learning about myself, learning, and then realizing like, dang, I don't even do a lot of the things that I used to enjoy doing. Like, yeah, I
Hmm.
do write here and there, but I wanted to like heal people. I wanted to like create big things. I had big visions. Like, I wanted to do like stuff in the environment. I was realizing like, dang, I really don't do a lot of that stuff that I wanted to do. And then I was like, why don't I do any of that stuff actually? And it
Yeah.
started helping me to realize, like, well, you've been around people who they didn't really have any ambition. They didn't really have the things that they were identifying with, who they were identifying as. It was people who are in struggle, people who are of lack, people who believe that a lot of my friends, like the people I was hanging around, they didn't even believe they could do stuff. And
Okay.
before, I was one of those emo kids, okay, woe is me, the world,
Yeah.
especially in my middle school years. And
Yeah.
so like being around them in that time, it was like, it was normal. It was like, oh, that's the thing, it's edgy, it's
Yeah.
whatever. But like as I'm like growing up and I'm reflecting back on the time, it was like I may have acted like that, like, oh, it's the Pisces in me, I'm a dramatic.
Hmm.
I'm just, that's not who I am, like,
Yeah.
as a person. Like, that's not who I am naturally. It was just
Hmm.
me being in my feelings a lot. And then that's how I was processing at the time.
Yeah.
But now that I'm no longer in that space, I was like, oh, that's kind of that's such an interesting way to look at life. Like a lot of my reflections lately have been like, you really don't. love yourself. You really don't care enough. You really, or not care enough, care about yourself or respect yourself enough. And I had to realize that because I had a lot of insecurities growing up. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you know, people would call me fat, people would call me weird, people would call me like, yeah. I had a lot of insecurities growing up. And so in order for me to feel like I could be accepted or fit in, I adjusted my personality a lot to make people comfortable, to
Okay.
make
Yeah.
people, you know, not be like, oh, you're so weird. Why do you think like that? Or why do you do it that way? And then I'm like doing things other ways, but it stresses me out to do it that way. It stresses me
Yeah.
out cause I don't know.
To
It's
filter
like,
yourself.
yeah, like I'm
Yeah.
filtering myself. Like I gotta think. I end up overthinking a lot because I'm trying
Mm.
to like, oh well, okay, this person doesn't really, but then I don't really like that either. So then I just end up in my head a lot of the time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so during that time, it was a lot of self reflection. It was a lot of self reflection. That really what started the change. I really started to look around and was like, damn, am I actually happy with what I'm dealing with right now? Am I actually like, is this it? Is this it? Cause a lot of for a really long time I was like, I don't know. There was always that part of me like, this can't be it. This can't be it. Like,
Yeah.
cause I've always had bigger dreams. I've always wanted to like create. When I was a kid, I wanted to be an acting, singing doctor
Mm-hmm.
because I like to create stories and I want to
Yeah.
heal people.
Yeah.
So I was
Yeah.
like, an acting, singing doctor on God, I'm gonna do that.
Yeah.
But then over time, they'd be like, oh well, you don't sing as well as the other people, or you don't do it as well as this thing, and oh, you got to do it this way in order for you to be a doctor. And so I realized I lost a lot of the enjoyment that I used to get from those things because those are things that I've always known I wanted to do. It wasn't like
Yeah.
I was. I wasn't one of those kids who really had to figure out what they wanted. I've always wanted. I came out the womb
Yeah.
knowing that I came here to help people heal
Yeah.
because I like to give people space. I like if you need a moment, you just need to like to breathe, anger, whatever. Do what you gotta do, bro. I ain't gonna judge you because I get it. I've been there,
Yeah.
and I feel like a lot of us we don't create space for each other in that way.
Yeah.
But that's the thing that I've come to realize now. Back then, I was like, yeah, I want to be like an orthopedic surgeon or some shit. I don't know. I wanted to be like
Mm-hmm.
in the medical field, and but it didn't work out that way because schooling that's a whole other story, honestly, but it didn't
Yeah.
work out that way. And I realized that it was very divine that it didn't do that because honestly I don't agree with how the healthcare system practices at all. Like they treat the symptoms instead of the root of the problem, which I don't like. So I understand now why it had to be that way, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's been a very
Yeah.
interesting time.
Okay, so a lot of the things you said, I actually resonate with. I feel like
Hmm.
there was a point in time, all my friends were different, but I
Hmm.
did have like certain friendships where all it was doom, doom, sorrow, sorrow,
Yeah.
and there was a
Yeah.
lot of chaos happening in their life. And I'm just like, well, shit, does this much actually happen in people's
Hmm.
lives? And like, and then the person would feel sorry for themselves constantly, and at that point, because that was my friend, I'm like, okay, yeah, I feel sorry for you. Then after I thought, no, 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 no,
Hmm.
you're attracting all this drama, but me being here, I'm sitting in the sorrows with you, the sorrows that
Hmm. Hmm.
don't really exist because
Yeah.
you're choosing to sit in that, you're choosing
Hmm.
to sit in that space. But with you
Hmm.
sitting in that space, I am also now choosing to sit in that space. But it
Hmm.
does come from a lot of codependency. You just want to fit in, you
Yes.
just want to feel loved, so
Mhm.
you stay
Mhm.
in those places with those people that are
Mhm.
literally draining the fuck out of you. You're thinking, what am I
Mhm.
doing here? You come away from them and you're tired,
Mhm.
you're drained. All you want to do is you you're supposed to come from a weekend away or come from your friends feeling rejuvenated, but instead you're going
Exactly.
home and you're feeling tired
Exactly.
and you're just like, that, why am I tired? Why am I so
Mhm.
tired? Why
Mhm.
am I thinking this way? Why am I thinking so intensely
Right.
about a situation that doesn't actually require this much brain activity? Like, why am I sitting
Mhm.
here overthinking?
Mhm.
And then the next time you go around these people or you go around some of these people, you're just like, oh, what do I say now? What do I say? I don't want to
Yeah.
say exactly what I'm thinking because I don't want to be judged, because
Yeah.
sometimes my mouth can run and it can be a lot for some people.
It can.
Sometimes when I talk,
Yeah.
it's completely normal to me, but
Mhm.
other people it's just like, wait, why did you
Yeah.
say that? So I spent a lot of time. I would say what I needed to say, but I would say
Mhm.
it in installments. So I would say bit
Mhm.
by bit and drop it in there because I can't keep it
Mhm.
all in. Like some of it
Yeah.
would have to come out, but it would be like
Yeah.
drips and drabs,
Mhm.
and then it
Mhm.
would get to a point where there would be a massive explosion because
Mhm.
I'm not honoring myself and my voice and just saying what I want to
Mhm.
say in one piece. I'm saying it in
Mhm.
installments, and the thing is with installments is then you have more to say, then it
Yeah.
just builds up and builds up and you just
Mhm.
have an explosion, and these people are just looking at you like you're
Yeah.
absolutely crazy, you're
Mhm.
absolutely out of your mind, and it's just
Mhm.
like, well, where did that all come from? And then
Yeah.
you try to explain, but by the time you try to explain,
Mhm.
everything is all it's all translated
Mhm.
differently, and you're just, where
Yeah.
you're on different pages anyway,
Mhm.
trying to
May I
explain
say
to
something?
somebody. Yeah.
Sorry. May I say something really quick? Because I actually saw something recently about this and it hit me like, bro. It said, what did she say? She said, what is it? I know the end part. I'm trying to remember the first part. Something expectations is becomes silent resentments. Oh,
Yes.
unexpressed
I can't
expectations
click properly, but
become silent resentments. There it is. Yes. And it's so crazy that you're saying, because that's something that I've had to learn recently, because there's a lot of times where um because I've been taught to keep the peace growing up, like I wouldn't say things, I wouldn't say something when things bother me, right? I would just be
Mhm.
like, okay, it's all right, But then on the inside, I'm like, girl, what the fuck? Excuse me, can I curse on here? I don't know if this
Yeah,
is,
you
you
can.
know,
You
I
can.
have a sailor mouth. I can go a little crazy sometimes. But I'm like, what's going on? And but then I wouldn't say nothing because I've been taught, keep the peace, don't rock the boat, none of that. But then at some point it's like, nah, y'all are actively like tweaking on my dome right now. It's not making no sense. And so
Yeah.
you start like, then you explode like you're saying, and then you're just like, and everybody's like, where'd that come from, girl? You're doing a bit much. Let's bring it down. You know what I'm saying? But I'm like, nah, because this whole time. But then you know what they always end up? Why didn't you say nothing? And you have to
Yeah.
really sit there like, damn, why didn't I say nothing?
Hmm.
Because we've kind of been taught, I've been learned, like, we've kind of been taught to keep the peace. And anytime you break the peace, it becomes this like problem, right? But
Yeah.
then think about if we were able to actually break the peace, like you're saying, in installments, right? The installments can be like actively addressing the problem rather than just sugarcoating it.
Hmm.
I feel like we've come to this society at this point where everybody has to censor themselves, and so there
Yeah.
is no constructive criticism
Hmm.
because people just see it as criticism. Like,
Yeah.
criticism isn't a bad thing. It's
Yeah.
actually quite positive because yes, there are times things aren't always going to be perfect. We're all trying to figure out how to do stuff. You know what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
criticism is important. It's just for a really long time, how people were criticized was not constructive. It was
Yeah.
always just like bad mouthing people, talking bad about people, not actually telling them, well, yeah, here's where you kind of messed up. But if you can like just shift a little here and then keep them with the rest of this stuff, yeah, you're golden. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
criticism was
People.
never
Yeah.
taught to us like that. You know what I'm saying? It was always
Yeah.
like, oh, you're doing terribly, and actually she's doing better than you. So really, you're really, and you're just like, damn, like,
Yeah, and that's the thing is like when you do try to say things to people, it's
mm-hmm.
like you're attacking them. So it's like they
Yeah,
say all of these things and then they pull out all of these things that they think about you, and you're just like,
mm-hmm.
oh, so you don't like me? You don't like me?
Mm-hmm.
You are just tolerating me. And actually, what I was saying to you was out of love, but what you're saying to me is at the core you had a problem with me.
Yeah,
So you was
yeah,
just waiting for that perfect moment because what
mm-hmm.
I want. Another thing that I realized is
Mm-hmm.
people are not unaware of what they're doing. They just act and pretend because that is their form of keeping the peace. That's their form
Mm-hmm.
of keeping quiet. But as soon as you address it, they have this
Mm-hmm.
whole storage cupboard, this whole
Mm-hmm.
cabinet of stuff
Oh
that
shoot, sorry,
you've
someone.
done or doesn't or they don't like about you,
Mm-hmm.
and you're just like, oh. But this is going
Yeah,
way back, so you have a
yeah.
file on me from 10 BC that
Okay,
I was not aware of. But
so here's the thing. Ooh.
you've kept this on me, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we're both none the wiser because I'm saying it
Yeah.
out of love and I want to progress,
Mm-hmm.
but you've just put a spanner in the works, and now I think fuck
Mm-hmm.
you, and
Mm-hmm.
everything you came with.
So valid as hell. But let me tell you something. They're actually not aware. Oh, I've come to the realization recently. They're actually not aware. No, because hear me out, right? Because I've realized that people can be aware of their toxic traits, but they're not aware of why they're there. And so they may
Yeah.
lean into the traits.
Yeah.
And so while they're aware of like, yeah, I do this and I do this, and this is how I handle this situation,
Yeah.
you don't realize why you're doing it. So you're actually operating out of your subconscious. You're actually
Yeah.
operating out of, you're not consciously doing half the, now that's not to excuse anybody. Hey,
Yeah.
at some point you got to grow up, put your big girl panties on and take
Yeah.
accountability. All right.
Yeah.
But 9 times out of 10, and even what you were saying earlier, right, about how when you say, when you try to talk about something and they feel like you're attacking them, that
Mhm.
still is not you. That's another thing I've learned. It's not us, because
Mhm.
the problem is, like we said, we've been taught to keep the peace. So people have gotten comfortable with not being addressed when they fuck up. They've
Yeah.
gotten really comfortable with not taking accountability. Because understand, if you, for example, if you were to come say something to me, hey Mari, I didn't like how you said that thing to me the other day. You know, I really didn't appreciate your tone, your pitch, your XYZ, right? Me hearing that, I'm like, okay, I can understand how you say that, what you meant by that.
Mhm.
I didn't intend for you to take it that way. I understand that I can get a little passionate, but in order for us to do that, right, I'm solid in myself. I know who I am.
Mhm.
I know who I am. I know how I am. And I know sometimes I can get a little passionate. Okay. Okay. I know sometimes my tone can get a little crazy because I'm
Yeah.
heated. I'm heated. It's not necessarily
Yeah.
I'm angry. I'm just a passionate person. So I
Yeah.
can
Me
like cuss
too.
out. And then I
Yeah. Me
cuss on
too.
top of it. So people are like, you cussing me out? No, baby,
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
I'm just a
Me
little
too.
passionate. Okay, I'm just a
Yeah.
little, I get a little up there. But because I know who I am, you saying that to me is not gonna be like, well, I'm not a bad person just because I said that. Like I didn't even mean it like that. That's defensive, right? But
Yeah.
that's because but that's, if I didn't know, if I don't know who I am, or if I don't know myself that well, me hearing you say that, I take it
Mhm.
as a personal attack. But because I know who I am, I'm grounded in myself, right?
Mhm.
You saying something like that to me, I could be like, okay, I can understand how you could take it that way, because I know how I can get, because I know
Mhm.
myself. I know how I can get. So it's not a negative thing, or it's not an attack against me. It's just like, hey, you kind of was going a bit, you was doing a bit much, Pook. You was doing it. Let's just bring
Yeah.
it down next time. Let's be a little more aware next time moving forward. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
it's not like I'm trying to intentionally trigger somebody else. I'm not trying to intentionally do nothing. It's just sometimes, you have those things. But once you have the awareness of it, it helps you to moderate it. Because I feel like a lot of us, we've been taught like the things that people perceive as negative things are always a bad thing. No,
Mhm.
well, sometimes. Depends on what we're talking about, honestly.
Yeah.
But it's not inherently a bad thing, because a lot of things that you think is negative can be worked for your own good. It's just your perspective of it. Do you know what I'm saying?